everyone, and welcome to Invisible Not Broken. I have the most patient person ever here, Sara. She is putting up with me even though I am about a half an hour late for our interview thanks to a new medication switch. And we're going to be talking today about ME, and which was known as chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, and she's wearing the most awesome rose-colored glasses, which I thought was just for epilepsy, but I've just been informed also for migraine. So, and please forgive my appearance if you're looking on YouTube. This is literally rolling out of bed. So this is a hashtag no filter. All right. So thank you. It's nice to see you today, Sara.
Yeah, I'm excited to be talking to you.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm so sorry. I was sleeping in today. So you have ME and fibromyalgia, which are and migraines, which are three of like the hardest to diagnose for people because it's so the symptoms can be so ubiquitous, like they can sort of fit into so many different forms. Were you able to get a quick diagnosis, or did you go for a while?
Oh yeah. Well, like luckily for me, my dad has had chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia before I did. So because he had already been through a lot of it, they were like, "Oh, she has the same thing."
It's so weird to say that's lucky, but it's really lucky when you have a family member who has these crazy things. They know where to look.
Oh yeah, I feel like a lot of people like have to figure it out on their own, but with us, it's like we do it as a family.
A family that naps and has to take lots of medication together, sticks together, right? But so your father, he's probably like closer to my age. Was that a long journey for him, or was he able to? Because ME even has been a hard one to get a diagnosis. It's only been a few years since they've really gotten that as a. Most doctors know what that is.
Yeah, he was like having problems when he was young, and in his 20s he got so sick to where he couldn't like get out of bed or even shave or walk to the end of the driveway. And he grew up in like a different time than us, even though like we still have a hard time getting diagnosed now. Like back then it was unheard of. So he got called like lazy, a hypochondriac. I mean, doctors told him that it was his way of taking a break from being successful.
Oh my God.
So he kind of grew up with like constantly having to defend himself and like search for answers.
Yeah, that makes me want to cry. I mean, I know exactly what that feels like for when you're growing up, especially when you're like, for my children being teenagers, and when I was a teenager being told I was lazy or just attention seeking or all these other things, and to not have an answer. That's sort of the default if someone is not behaving the way society wants them to behave.
Yeah, it's like it's one of the hard things to go through. But I feel like a lot of the way I've taken on dealing with this illness is due to the way he takes it on, because he was treated so poorly that I feel like I just assumed that, oh, this is something I don't need to tell other people about because this is how I'm going to get treated.
Oh, wow.
So I just kind of like watched him growing up that way, and now I'm like, I think just until recently I started talking about it with other people.
I mean, the chronic illness closet is real. Like the coming out of the closet as chronic illness is a real thing.
When I put on my social media that I had health problems.
Oh my gosh! So how did that go for you? Because like seriously, you were much younger than I am, and when I was young, the worst thing that you could think of was someone would read your diary, like that someone would like. Everything is so private, and this next generation coming in, I feel like everything's so public. It's like we have blogs for our diaries and we publish them for everyone. How was it to like go super public?
Honestly, I was like scared to death to do it because like I've only like kept it within like my family and a few friends, but it was the best thing that I've ever done because it like gave me like some control back over this illness that basically controls everything from how like when you go to the bathroom and when you sleep and what you can eat. Like every aspect of my life was changed when I got sick. So being able to talk about it the way I wanted to talk about it and share my side of the story was kind of freeing in a way.
And when did you start presenting symptoms?
When I was 16 years old,
Wow.
I was like a normal high school student before this. I was a fast pitch softball pitcher getting scouted for colleges. I was in the band, honor And then it all kind of started with a bunch of migraines, which just kind of pounded me down. And I kept trying to fight through them, go back to high school. And it just got to the point where I couldn't even go to school anymore. And I was just at home completely exhausted and like never recovering.
I can't imagine. I've been right there, but I'm so far from high school right now that I'm trying to remember what that was all like, because everyone has an opinion about you in high school. And it's
Oh, and then, well, the hardest thing for me, I think, was that my dad had already been sick and disabled by the time I started having problems for years. So we had already made the decision to move to Florida because we have like this amazing giant family that lives close to each other and is super supportive. So, because even when my dad got sick, my mom had to go back to work. Everything changed. We were having to like take care of each other, and we just needed help basically. So we moved right when I got sick.
oh
So
boy.
I had to go through my senior year of high school at a school that would take me part time just so I could graduate. And starting a new school year in high school, like your senior year, with an illness was like impossible to make friends.
It's so frustrating. I mean, you start thinking about your future at 16. You're like being scouted for colleges, and then to have that kind of switch, and then to have, like when you're a teenager, at least when I was a teenager, it was like your support system wasn't necessarily your parents, it was your friends, and then you're sent over somewhere else. So how did that work out with your teachers? I'm always curious because I know what I went through with teachers, and I know what my son went through with teachers, and I always kind of wanted to hear like what it's like to be a teenager with that, with teachers and their decisions on how kids are. Oh, we have such
Yeah,
a
I
bad
couldn't go to
connection.
public
Let's
school
try it one more
because they
time.
would, yeah, they didn't take you part.
So
So
they
I
wouldn't
ended up
take you
going to a
part
small
time.
Christian school. And the teachers, I don't think they really knew much of what was going on with me. It was more of like the principal and the advising department. So if I ever needed anything, I would just go to them and they would kind of help me take care of it. I think I was lucky in that way because I was able to graduate. And I've been going to part-time to college ever since. So I'm still dealing with these teachers in the school and trying to get like special treatment for just so I can get an education.
Well, and you have the trifecta of invisible illness, and that's a little difficult to get people to really take that seriously when you can't meet deadlines.
Yeah.
Oh, we are freezing up and down. Are you getting
Right now.
freezing? Yeah, your Skype connection's.
So when I first started college, of course, I was applying to other schools and different programs, like all my friends were. And even though I got accepted into them, I couldn't go away to school because my health was at such a bad point. So I started at community college part time and living at home. And then eventually I got into architecture school, which happens to be like close enough to live at home for.
Yay!
So I'm doing it.
Congratulations! That's really
Thank you.
exciting.
I love it so much, but it's like also very frustrating because like every year my friends graduate and I start over with like a new class.
Oh my gosh, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just smiling so hard because I know that feeling of being left behind.
Yeah, it's something that like at first really bothered me because I felt like these people who like I was accepted into my program in the top 10 of my class, like I was always like on top of things and doing good with my work, but they like didn't understand why I was being left behind. And I think because I wasn't continuing with them, they kind of would drop me as a friend or wouldn't take me seriously. So it really feels like every year I'm like starting over.
That's so hard. I mean, socially, and I'm gonna guess professionally, that's a big hill to climb up.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes it's frustrating because I'm like, why am I going through all this? Am I even ever going to be able to be an architect? But I think it's kind of more romantic than that because I'm just so passionate about it. It's like the one thing that keeps me going and it like actually hypes me up, despite everything that's going on.
I'm so happy to hear that because it's just people who have passion for what they do is so exciting. You can see it in your face, like your face lights up when you talk about it. You get this, it's almost like you have a crush grin sort of thing. It's what gets, and it's something the best thing you can do.
Yeah, like yesterday, we had a meeting with one of the classes that I'm taking right now downtown with an actual architecture firm, and I was just like having a blast. Like, part of me was like, okay, I'm moving in, but the other part of me was like, how am I gonna ever do this? So it's like this battle of, oh my gosh, I want to do this, and am I going to be able to?
So you probably haven't gone through any of your interviews yet. How are you going to approach the interview process with your disorders?
I have no idea.
That's totally fair. I was just curious because I've always worked for myself after like a short little stint of trying to work for someone else, and being as sick, it was just impossible, and I had to have my own hours. So I started my own business mainly because I'm like, well, nothing that exists is going to work for me, so I just am going to have to make it then.
That's awesome. And like, I hope that I can do something like that. I mean, I still have another year left just to get my undergrad, and it will have taken me 8 years to graduate with like a 4-year degree.
See, I hear that, and I don't even know you, it makes me so fucking proud of you, because I'm like, it's so easy to go, well, this isn't working, this isn't happening, it's gonna be too long, I'm done, forget it, I'm gone. And for you to stick through, that says so much about you. Like, that's really impressive.
I'm very proud of myself too. It's like a big accomplishment, and I think I get like weird looks from my classmates, even though I've been with them for a while, because like even just showing up with like my hat and my glasses because the light bothers me, and they're like, "Oh, you look so cool," and I'm like, "It's not because I'm cool," and also like because of my migraines lately, I haven't been able to use a computer in about 8 months, and I'm in an architecture program, so it makes it impossible. So I've gotten so good at drawing and using a typewriter that people think that I'm using a computer program in my classes.
See, I'm so impressed with you. You just have like this spirit of like, okay, so this isn't working out, I'm gonna figure it over here. And it was so charming to get like hand typed things from you. I was like, this is lovely. I'm like feeling all John Steinbeck-y right now. This is fantastic.
Well, I wish I could like be here when it's happening, because like I just want you to imagine me like at a typewriter with it being like click 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 ching, and then my dad in the other room like practicing his bass guitar while laying down because of his fibromyalgia, and then my sister like using a foot mouse and talking to her computer like one room over because of her fibromyalgia. And it's just like this circus that goes on that's so normal to us, but I realize it's totally hilarious when I start talking about
charming.
People.
It's so charming. Adopt me. That's darling. I love it. So your whole family is, and I'm really curious how this dynamic works. I feel really fortunate that in my family, I'm the one, except for my father, I'm the only one who's so disabled I can't work or function in the real world. How does this work for you guys as far as like figuring out how to run a house, how to keep a house clean, how to get money into a house?
It is wild. Like, every day is so entertaining because of it. My mom is the only one that's like 100% healthy, so she's the one that goes to work every day. While she's out of the house just goes downhill so fast. But we don't let her see it, and like, so we have this thing called DEFCON 5, where at 5 o'clock for about 5 minutes, all three of us just rapidly start fixing that house, like opening the blinds again, putting the throw pillows back on the pillows, on the couches, making sure like the laundry's not hanging out all over the place. Like, it's a disaster during the day, but when she gets home, it's pristine.
I want DEFCON 5 in my house. That is the new rule around here. That is great. So how do you guys support each other since you're all home? Like,
we're with each other a lot, especially since me and my dad are mostly housebound. It's just such a fun dynamic because my dad's been having this severe throat problem from his fibromyalgia where he can't talk barely at all anymore. So he's been learning sign language. And so and then I have like eye problems with seeing and everything. So it's like this big game of charades to communicate with each other constantly.
I don't mean to laugh, but that's just like, I think you guys have just started a new sitcom. There's going to be a reality show at your house.
It should be. Like, it literally is a sitcom, especially because my extended family, even though they don't completely get it, they like try so hard. And our house is just this revolving door of people. Like, no one uses our front door. People just walk in. They bring us dinner. They take my dad to sign language class. They take me to doctor's appointments or class, or my cousins come over for dinner to keep us company. Like, it's always something. And the funny thing about the sign language is my grandma takes my dad, and she is just the absolute worst at sign language. So, like, whenever she does it, she'll, like, accidentally flick us off or something. Can't really tell her. And it's just constant. Like, stuff like that happens all the time.
It sounds like everyone's been able to band around your family to give you guys a really good net.
Yeah, like, I don't know what we would do without them because, I mean, when we first moved here, we were living with my grandparents. So we were literally under their roof. Like, everything changed. Like, I no longer had my softball team or my friends or the house I grew up in. Like, I mean it when I say, like, every single thing changed.
Yeah. And to be going from a body that you could count on. And when you went from a body that you could count on to a body that is not reliable in a new place.
Yeah. And it was so, like, that was the hardest time for me. And another thing that made it really difficult when I was in high school was a lot of people with chronic fatigue syndrome have, like, these viral infections that doctors try to treat with antivirals and antibiotics. So we found a doctor when we moved here for me to start taking those, and it ended up giving me systemic candida. And
are you
serious?
Thrush.
And so usually people, I'll just get thrush, like, it'll go away if I take some medicine. But it was so far past that point that it was throughout my entire system. It was in my gut. It was in my toenails. And it was just the most miserable time. And I think, like, when I was filling out this form for our interview, I was thinking about when did your disorder become a daily issue? And in this case, it became like an hourly issue, because we're talking about every single meal and just every time I ate making me so sick to the point where I was bloated and I could feel my skin stretching. So not only was I, like, starting a new high school, not knowing anybody and being sick, but I couldn't eat.
I feel like I want to hug, like, the 16-year-old you. I feel so bad. That's, like, the worst.
I know. It was so bad. Like, I couldn't go out to eat for dinner. I couldn't go get coffee. I couldn't even eat at friends' houses. Like, I remember one time going to a friend's house, and they were, like, trying to accommodate me, and they gave me, like, a veggie burger, and I was like, I can't eat this. So, like, we were sitting outside, and I would just, like, nonchalantly throw some of it over my shoulder every once in a while, so they wouldn't know that, like, I couldn't eat it.
I feel like dogs are really happy when, like, chronic illness guests come over to their house, because it's, like, just so much of, like, you know, you're cheering, and you're like, hand over to dog.
My dog is so spoiled because of it. Like, even the other day, I went into the kitchen to get dinner, and the entire kitchen floor was soaking wet. And I'm like, what happened here? And I realized it's because my dad missed the entire sink when he was straining the noodles, and he had no idea.
That sounds just so dangerous if you have hot water. I'm going into mom mode. I'm like, the poor dogs, I hope they were there when it was hot.
I think our dog is just always kind of traumatized by us, not really sure what's going on.
Oh my gosh. I have I call him the wolf. He's 95, almost 100 pounds. A beast. And his reaction to, like, mommy is sick, mommy shouldn't get up, is laying across my stomach, all 100 pounds. Like, okay.
That.
Yeah, it's very...
100-pound golden retriever. Oh. He passed away like a year and a half ago, but he was like my best friend. Like, because even no matter what I was going through, he was just there to, like, cuddle and hang out and just make sure I got up and went on walks. It was, like, great.
So how are you doing with the ME with, like, physical activity? Are you able to go for walks? How do you keep yourself from, it's like, I'm asking this honestly because I have POTS, and that's the heart condition thing, and I'm looking for advice, because if I do go out and move around, I faint. If I don't, my heart deconditions. How do you walk that tightrope?
It's like, if I don't walk, everything else goes away, you know, like, everything stops, everything gets messed up, so you have to keep moving. But it's like trying to find, like, kind of this battle of where is it okay? And I like recently, one of my friends got me a Fitbit watch. So I could kind of, like, over a few weeks, I kind of tracked how many steps I typically took.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of found that sweet spot where I was like, okay, this is how many steps I need to take. And, like, it tracks your heart rate and all kinds of things so that you can kind of determine, like, when is too much for me and where should I stay. So I kind of have that going on. I mean, there were times when I wasn't even leaving the house, and my dad would literally yell at me and be like, "Get up, we're going to walk to the end of the driveway and back." And, like, I would be, like, begging him not to make me get up the whole time. So it's just, like, being a support system and just, like, forcing each other to make sure we're doing something, even if it's just a little bit every day.
I think that's part of what people have a problem with, which you definitely don't. Being able to stay through college when it's not going as you expected is like, if it's not going as expected, forget it. I'm not doing it. Like, if I can't walk a mile, screw it, I'm not going to do it. I can't walk. That's like the mindset I get in 2 seconds. Like, if I can't do what I expected to do, I can't do it at all. Like, forgetting that, yes, you could probably walk to the end of the driveway and back. That's still something you can, like, that I could probably do. It's, I think
the
problem.
thing is just finding ways to adapt. Like, we are hilarious when it comes to adapting to different things. Like, even just some of the things I've told you. Like,
I mean, your sister's mouse thing, I'm intrigued. That's cool. Using the foot for the mouse, that is really cool.
But like, we're like, that's painful, I can't do it. My dad's like, because he's like the smartest person I know, even though he's been through so much with a disability. So he like thinks of like different ideas of how like he can help us get through the day better. So and we're kind of all have that kind of personality where we're like, no, we're gonna find a way. And I think it's that stubbornness that like helps us find all these weird life hacks. So like I was talking about my sister, like she's a professional dancer, and she goes to school too, and she went through mono, which kind of triggered fibromyalgia for her. And for her, using a computer or doing fine motor skill things are very painful. So my dad went outside, picked up one of my shoes, which like now I can't wear them anymore because he cut a hole in it and put a mouse in it and duct taped it to her foot so that she could use a computer and do her schoolwork. And it actually works. So it's hilarious to watch too because she'll be sitting there and like not using her hands at all, but the mouse will be moving and the screen's changing.
That is, I hope he does like a YouTube video on how to actually make one of these, because for Ehlers-Danlos, that's another thing. Like a lot, we dislocate our fingers and our wrists all the time, and yeah, that would be a cool hack. Like the ones that we were always taught is like if you're using a stylus, because I'm an illustrator, it's that we have to like put tons of rubber bands around it to make it really fat instead of a super skinny thing.
Yeah, but we've been using stylus too because of the like even using a cell phone is difficult.
Oh,
like
gosh,
I went on this morning, my sister's friend had given her like 100 styluses because she loses them every day, and they're just like 100 of them sitting in our kitchen. Like that was what I woke up to this morning.
That's a pretty fun one. So how do you guys handle, I mean, I'm thinking more from like how I was, because all we had were cell phones, or like I was a teenager when cell phones first came out, and I can't use phones because my wrists keep popping out, so I always insist on texting or email. But you guys can do that now. Like that's not a thing where people keep trying to want to call you, right?
Like what do you mean?
Like so people, I don't know, it's like the thing with the phone is like people get kind of pissed off at me that I won't talk on the phone if I don't absolutely have to. Like I'll talk to my son on the phone, but that's about it. Like otherwise I want texting for the thumb.
I got to the point where like the friends that are good friends are the ones I'm still friends with because they know that if I ignore them on a phone call or if I cancel plans, they're not going to be pissed at me because they know I'm a mess. And anyone who hasn't been able to accept that, I've kind of had to let go of because I'm the kind of person where I want to make everyone happy. And it'll put my health at risk even to do that. So I've gotten to the point where I'm like, no, I just have to like kind of be savage about it. And
I'm going to just underline that really quickly because I think that's a huge issue for all of us with chronic illness is like we want to make everyone happy. And if we do that, we're going to end up making ourselves sick.
Yes, exactly. So it's just gotten to the point where like I have to put myself first, which is like so hard for me to do. But I've gotten...
So teach me, Guru, please. How do you put yourself first? Is that something I'm still learning? I am still the person who will put myself on fire to light someone's flame. Like I will absolutely bring
Me too.
myself to the end to make sure someone else has what they need.
I think it's like one thing is prioritizing. So like with school, I have to figure out, I have to tell myself, like, if I don't put myself first, I'm not going to be able to go to school. I'm not going to be able to help my family. And just thinking of what I need to get done. I think another huge thing for me was putting people out of my life that weren't putting my health first. Because if you have people who are toxic and who are constantly like pulling that energy from you, then you're going to be running on empty, and they're just not the kind of people that are worth having in your life. And I think that's like a really hard thing to do. It's taken me like 8 years to find people who get me.
That is so brilliant. I absolutely love that you do need to remove the toxic people who do not put your health first, because they might be great people, but for you personally, if you're that sick, that's actually one of the great litmus tests of like whether someone stays in your life is, can they put your health first?
Yeah, and one thing that I tell myself when I'm having a hard time with that is that people can change, but you can't change them. So like, if
you need to just like underline these, write them in a book. That is good.
It's like, it's so true though, because you can think about it and you want to change a person, you want them to understand, but unless they're willing to do that, then there's nothing you can do. And you have to like kind of let it go and let them do it. And that's been a big game changer for me recently.
I mean, dating, friends, everything, that people can change, but you can't change them. That should be underlined in every person's book before they start dating.
I have like a few rules for myself that I keep. Like another one that has really been a journey, as I'm sure you've been through, and anyone with invisible illness has been through, is just like when you get sick all of a sudden, it's like everything that you thought defined you kind of goes away. Like for me, it's like, okay, I'm no longer an athlete. I'm no longer first chair in the band. I'm not at school. My friends are gone. My boyfriend's gone. I'm in a new state. Everything's different. And so it's taught me to kind of build up my own self-worth on things that can't be taken away if I'm going through a hard, sick time. You know, it's like I can't define myself based on physical things. I've had to kind of figure out who I am through all this. And I think that's been the biggest blessing and the biggest lesson that I've learned through all of this.
That is outright utterly beautiful. And yes, you're absolutely right. Like the rebuilding of yourself, if you do it when you're young, I think it's almost easier as you get older and things go away more. And that you have an incredible role model in how to be sick, I think is incredible. Because like if you look at like how we get our role models as kids, it's usually on TV or through movies. And there are very, very few realistic shows of invisible chronic illness, or also disability, or mental illness on TV or shows that actually show what it's really like. So we don't have a lot of like heroes that we can model our behavior and how we handle things off of anything other than our, if we have a parent or someone who leads the way with how to do it, I think that changes the game a lot.
My dad is like my hero because he's just been through even more than I've been through. And like you would think that someone like that would be angry or whatever, but he's just got this huge faith and he just handles things in such like an admirable way. I mean, he always freaks out a little bit at first because our nerves are shot, but we always problem solve together. We always handle things like, I always think like we did that the best we could. And
I'm just gonna throw quotes through this entire. I'm gonna have to go back through this entire hour and pull out all of your quotes and just like highlight them and put them up at the top of the interview because you are so good at this.
Well, I do a lot of thinking about this kind of thing. I don't know about you, but like getting involved with talking to other people about it and like trying to share about it, you kind of have these realizations as you go.
A lovely friend of mine who interviewed me for her podcast, and we've had experiences where people say they don't like my voice. If you don't like my voice, go to Lauren at This Is Not What I Ordered. She's amazing, and she has a great voice. But she's become a friend of mine, and she said, I think she was what I said, that my body is an extrovert, my body's an introvert, I'm an extrovert. And I was like, that encapsulates it, like right there. Like I feed off of being around other people and getting ideas from other people. That's where I feel sparky and like my brain feels alive. All of a sudden, like you get that heat in your brain where it starts going, oh yeah, that's right, ideas. I remember this. And that's like talking to people. My body just keeps me from going to those meetings or to other things and getting to actually get out in the world. Yeah.
That's the most active thing ever. And it's like another thing you have to do is you have to keep your mind busy, like audiobooks, podcasts, even having friends that just like talk about these things with. Like for me, I didn't, even though I had my dad who is also sick, I really didn't know anyone else. And I didn't have anyone my age that was going through the same thing as me. And one time I went on like a retreat at college, and I met this girl who was like, we started talking and we had the same things going on, and we realized we both had chronic fatigue syndrome. And like, as soon as like that light bulb went off that someone else understood for once, I didn't have to explain myself, was like better than anything, any cure or any thing any doctor could say. It was just having somebody who got it, who was my age and related to it.
Yeah, I was talking to an oncologist once who was a research studier for breast cancer, and she said the number one thing to predict whether a woman would survive stage 4 breast cancer was how many friends that she was studying women in particular, but how many friends that person has is like close friends, like the people who have your back. That would be the ultimate signifier whether someone would survive stage 4 breast cancer. And it's like that feels really true for every human being, like in so many ways. Like if you have people who actually have your back, you start caring about yourself. You start to really care about like, okay, well, I need to, like, people tell me all the time, like, I can't believe you have kids with your illnesses, like, and your disabilities. How do you possibly do this without kids? So I'm like, I really don't understand how anyone does it without kids. I'm sorry, I'm mixing up my words. Everyone forgive me, please. I am on so many meds right now. I dislocated like 4 things at 1 o'clock in the morning. So I am a walking opioid epidemic right now. So I will try to get my words right. If people ask me how I do this with children, I don't know how anyone does it without like someone who relies on you. Like be that a pet, a dog. My kids are everything to me, and they're the ones who will come into my room and remind me I have an interview in the morning at 10 o'clock when I've slept in. And I don't know how you do this without close people who have your back, or at least pets who are like, get up, person, I need you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm like glad to hear you say that too, because I think it's something that's always been in the back of my mind where like, will I be able to get married and have a family and have my own kids? Or like, what is my, and it's so unknown. So to hear like other people say like, no, I have a family, I have kids, I do my own thing. Yeah, it's really encouraging.
It's so I'm so glad I could encourage someone today. Yay! I won today. That's good. You know, it's a hard thing when you're dating and you have chronic illness. I have plenty of people who I was with, and some that I was with for a really long time, that were like, okay, I'm out. I'm 20 something. I can't do this. This is more than I was signing up for. Even when I told them that I was sick before, like the reality of living with it was just too much. But you do
had that thing happen to me because a year and a half ago I was engaged, and I've been dating this guy for like 4 years. Like even though I'm a mess up and down, I was so happy because he was my best friend, and all of a sudden he couldn't deal with it, and losing that was like, it was such a bummer. Like, I'm not lie.
You have like the sweet, you remind me of my husband. He says like, oopsie daisy, bummer, gosh darn it. I am like, that is a fucking disaster. No, I like that you remind me of my husband that way. That's very sweet.
I know. I like, even when I go to doctors, my dad's like, okay, you need to tell him how it is. Be a little bit mean. And I'm like, I can't. I'm too nice.
So I'm so sorry I got us off topic about your ex-fiance. He just was like at a point where he was realizing the reality of it, or?
I think so, because we were, I think it was so much, and it was at a point where my fatigue was just really at the worst it had been. I was cutting down on classes, like I needed a lot of help. And I mean, for a long time, I think when things like that happen, you feel like, oh my gosh, it's my fault because I'm sick. Yeah. A year to realize it wasn't my fault. I mean, I'm awesome. I'm worth the trouble.
Yes, you so are awesome.
It's like, I think, well, like, honestly, after all that happened is when I started blogging about my illness, because I was like, I'm not going to put my worth into other people. I'm not going to put it into things that can be taken from me if my health is bad. I'm going to put it into something I'm passionate about. And I've been trying to do that ever since. And really, like, that knocked me down. And I had to build my worth back up to be like, no, you deserve what everyone else deserves.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely amazing. And the thing is, like, when you're dating and you have something like this, it really takes out all the people who aren't serious, who are just like playing around. Like, I felt almost like I was lucky because I was a single mom and I had like disabilities, and I was like, wow, someone's going to be here. They are here. Like, this is this is what this is, really right up front. So I almost felt luckier than a lot of the people I know whose chronic illness developed after, like, in their 40s, and they'd already developed a pattern in their marriage that had to be very changed. Like, when my husband married me, we'd been friends for 3 years. He had seen all of it, like all of it, and he was signing up for all of it. So it was much better, much easier.
Like, my parents are really great examples, because my dad was pretty healthy for most of my life. Like, he was working, he was a softball coach, he was doing everything. And then my mom was staying at home with me and my sister. So, like, that whole flip-flop and her having to take on not only us being a mess, but, like, supporting us and taking care of us, she's been, like, the best. And it's just such a great example of, like, what people with chronic illness deserve, is people who are willing to go back for you every day.
I think we need to get our moms together for a support group, because my poor mom, she has like me and my dad, who's mostly, well, he's actually in the first time for like 3 years starting to get out of bed. This is like, there are trumpets going. There's like, I actually sent him like little gifs of tortoises like walking, and with like a little background of Chariots of Fire, the race movie. And yeah, we communicate in gifs a lot of the time, but it's so amazing to watch him still, like, you have your father, I have my dad, who's like taught me how to deal with chronic illness in a way that you don't just stop. Like, his way of doing things has been amazing to have that in front of me. So I don't know how I would do if I didn't have those kind of examples. And I feel like they're like, Hollywood needs to really step it up and like decide that they're going to have these examples for everyone. Like,
yeah, we really need it, because that is what you need when you're going through something that's so hard to understand what's happening to you. Even if you like are told, like, even if, when I was told you have chronic fatigue syndrome, I'm like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
For me.
So what does it mean for you? Like, how do you present with chronic fatigue? Are you
able to see that?
Are you dealing with so your chronic fatigue?
Oh yeah. So another thing about my fatigue is, like, I know that there's this kind of spectrum. There's people with the chronic fatigue syndrome who are bedbound. There's people who can't sit up. There's people who spend their days in a dark room. And that's not me. I'm up most of the day. Whether I'm like slowly working on homework or listening to a podcast or going to a class or a doctor's appointment. So when I am out, like, I'm young and I'm cute. So there's no one looks at me and is like, oh, that girl's sick. Like, I always, like, when I go out, like, I look cute. I have my hair just looks good. I mean, sometimes I do my makeup in 5 seconds, but it still looks fine. So when I go to school, people think that, like, oh, I got it together.
That's always a good trick. Yeah, I have my makeup routine down to less than 3 minutes if I'm going out. Like, I have this is very, I just rolled out of bed, but I have like this crazy makeup routine where I could look like a normal person, like even a healthy person. Like, it's all down to highlighter and blush. It's amazing. Like a little highlighter and boom, slept.
Because, like, when I'm around the house, sometimes my mom will be like, oh my gosh, your hair looks terrible. And then she'll do it. And then my sister's a makeup artist, so she'll do my makeup for me. Like, they don't let me go out looking like crap. They're like, no, you're cute, you're young, you're going to look good.
That's adorable. And I feel like I have like a huge advantage, because when my disorders are invisible, they're really not that invisible. Like, I can go like this and go, look, see, there's a shoulder socket. Like, And so when I want to get out of something, or I need to get out of something because I'm not feeling well, it's really easy to just send like a picture of like, here, look at my wrist. I dislocated it. I'm so sorry. I have to stay home, which is usually true. I mean, if I'm out, I'm not out because I should be. Like if I'm out doing anything out at a friend's house, it is very against doctor's orders. Like I'm not supposed to be doing it, but oh, there we go. Just crack my wrist back in place. So at least I feel like I'm visible. Like if I'm on public transportation, someone will just look at me and go, please sit down, ma'am. Like, please don't fall. So I feel it's a huge like one up. Like, you know, Kiros, who's my co-host, who's like 6 foot something and like wall of a man, and the poor guy, like every step he takes, he's like screaming inside, and no one offers him a place to sit down or like goes, oh, you poor thing, why don't you rest?
It's gotten to the point where like I just kind of take my seat. Like I don't care if like I'm like stealing a seat or if like I'm parking handicap and I look fabulous. Like I'm gonna park there anyway because that's what makes me. That's the difference of me being able to go into a store or me being able to go to class is having that parking spot. So I'm not gonna apologize for it, even if I get stares for like looking normal.
I mean, that's part of why I did this podcast, was because I wanted to start building some more education on disability. It doesn't look like how you see it in the movies. Like, it's not like that. There are people who look completely normal and healthy who have to have that spot. Like, if I'm just having a POTS day where my heart's going insane and I still have to get the groceries, I have to park right by that
Yeah.
little door. Otherwise, Trader Joe's is going to be calling an ambulance, and that's going to cost me like $3,000. So it's really...
We found this thing where you can order your groceries online. And so we don't grocery shop anymore. Like we do it online and then go pick it up or get it delivered. And it's been like a game changer because before that it was like, all right, we're out of food for a while until mom like she's not working and can go buy us something to eat.
That is one of the best life hacks I've ever heard, is to order the groceries online. That's a good one. Do you have any other good life hacks? I'm writing them down. This is good.
Another really great one, like this is my all-time favorite one for my family, is my dad. He is like a horizontal person living in a vertical world. Like he needs to be laying down or have his head resting on something. And if you like go in public, most of the time there's no couch to lay down on. There's no chairs. The chairs come up to your lower back. They don't come up and support your neck. So one day I just saw him walking around with like a piece of wood sticking out of his shirt. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm making a neck rest that I can take with me. And it's evolved over time into this piece of wood that's like 4 inches thick about. And he has Velcroed like different, like a neck support and a lumbar support to it. And then it looked like so like crazy. So we were like, you need to like cover that with something. So he went into his bedroom. He got one of his like nice black dress pants. He cut off half the leg and used that as a carrying case. So we call it neck thing and a pant leg. And he takes it literally everywhere we go.
Your dad is my new favorite human. I'm like,
He's because it's like this whole...
He needs a 3D printer. That man needs a 3D printer so he can like create these like really cool alien-esque like life-formy things that he could put on his, like that would look really sci-fi cool, that he could put on his neck to his back. That
really one that looks cool, cooler for him, because right now he's walking around with a pant leg.
He needs a 3D printer. I really think he could do some amazing things with a Glowforge and a 3D printer. He would be very busy.
Well, it's like tough right now because he can't talk, but he also has similar vision problems where like using a computer or reading is very difficult for him. So me and him can't use a computer right now, and my sister can't use a computer unless it has like a foot mouse or voice activation. So us trying to like order things, pay bills, look things up, it's like it takes 3 computer. I'll be typing like 10 feet away. It's just, it takes so, my wish is for one person in my house to be able to like use a computer.
That would be amazing. That does not seem like it should be so impossible with like the way that Silicon Valley develops stuff. Like there should be a lot more for, I know Apple's actually been pretty good at their accessibility, but I could really use them stepping up some of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be very helpful.
It would.
But it's, someone was just talking on, the story just went viral because I look at the internet far too much. And one of the stories that went viral was a blind person who is using their phone from Speak, but the person is blind, as anyone who understands the stages of blindness understands that there's not, you don't just like go automatically necessarily to, okay, the world is black. Like there's stages of blindness, and this person was showing that they could see a little bit, but they were still using their phone on the blind setting, and the person got, there was like a huge outrage among the people around them that they would be using this access when, so again, like there needs to be way more visibility to understand that everyone's disabilities are different. And I'm so glad you also brought up the levels for your ME, because I think that's one of the big misunderstandings with other people is when you say, I have fibromyalgia, or I have ME, or I have these other things, someone always goes, well, yeah, I have someone too who has this. And and they're doing so much better than you're doing. And a lot of times it's because they're at a different stage. And if you hear me babbling, it's because I'm waiting for her Skype to buffer and come back to me. There seems to be something about Florida that every person I talk to from Florida, the Skype buffers like crazy. So I am babbling, waiting for, are you back on?
I'm back.
Yay, you are. You're a little pixelated, so I'm hoping that comes through again. See, this shows how worth it you are. We are continuing through the interview, making sure you can come back because you are so amazing. Yay! You're still pixelated, but I hope we're still able to talk a little bit.
Okay, yeah, I hear you.
Cool.
And I can see you. So.
Excellent. Well, not the seeing part. I'm so sorry about that today. So for you guys, what are you looking forward to? You're in the middle of school right now. Are you going to be doing an apprenticeship soon for your? My cousin's an architect, so I know her internship was kind of intense. How are you going to go about for your internship?
That's not like, I want to do an internship, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. And I'm probably going to wait until I graduate before I do it, because I don't think there's any way I could do an internship and school. Like at this point, like my grandma is my Uber. She drives me to and from school.
Grandma Uber, I love it.
So it's kind of like my family's going through extraordinary measures to make sure I can go to school right now. And I'm with student accessibility services with my college. And so I feel like with an internship, I would have to kind of figure out what adaptations I could put into place just to pull it off.
I understand that. I do. I'm just thinking, like, because my brain goes crazy with stuff, and I'm like, gosh, you'd be like so incredible as an architect who could design spaces that would minimize the amount of moving someone would have to do to move through the space.
Like, I'm telling you, yesterday we were talking about this performance arts theater that we're designing, and they started talking about where drop-off would be and accessibility, and I was like, my family wouldn't make it to the show.
Yeah. Like,
that was how you designed it. And I kept telling them that, like, there's no way my family would make it to that theater. So I kept saying, like, we need to change it. We need to change it. Because, like, we live accessibility problems.
No, that's why I was so excited. I was trying gently to lead you there because I wanted to see where you're going with that. And I'm so excited to hear you say it, because I think that one of the big problems we have is that people who are sick often are marginalized. And when you're looking at building a structure, not having someone on your staff who has a disability means you're not going to think about at least 90% of the problems that are going to come up. So it's so important for any architecture firm or any city development firm to have a disabled person on staff to be able to go, hey. And when you're designing spaces, the thing they always forget is, like, this is helpful for everyone. Universal design means everyone, not just sick people benefit from it, but, you know, people who are carrying children, or people who are tired or older, or hey, like, you just want to conserve your energy. So you might not want to put the bathroom like on the other floor from where everyone's going to, where the dancers are going to be. You want the dancers to be able to go to the bathroom and come back and change and get out. So you might want the bathroom closed. So, like, there's so many reasons to make it more universal design.
I constantly think about, like, real world situations that we've been in, and we're designing these things. I'm thinking about how would I walk through it. We put a wheelchair through it because we go everywhere with a wheelchair now. So that's kind of been exciting. And I think my class, like, kind of laughs at me when I'm like, my family wouldn't make it, but I'm like, no, seriously, we would not make that outing at all. Like, we have, honestly, as a family, until, like, the past couple months, we have not done anything outside of our house as a family, except, like, going to my grandma's house.
I hear
or at
that
least the past.
so much. I mean, like we got Hamilton tickets that we had to say no to.
Oh, darn.
We didn't get to go because the theater in San Francisco is so ADA friendly, in huge quotation marks, and the neighborhood is pretty rough. And whatever's on the ground is on my wheels, which in that neighborhood could be anything. And the parking structure is a little further away and up a hill from where the theater was.
Yeah.
And it was at 9:00 at night. So it's like safety and physicality, all of it's a no for me. I can't go. It was bummed me out. I really wanted to see the show, but it was like, it's that level of like, you would actually say no to Hamilton tickets because the ADA is not thought through. And while it technically meets the standards, doesn't mean that we still can go and do these things.
Yeah, and it's like you have to think about every step of how your evening's going to go before you can think about what even yes to doing it.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point where we don't really turn things down anymore. We just find another family member to go with if like we can't go. Like it's like we replace each other. So you can still say and then like think about it and then you're like, wait, this isn't gonna work. Send Uncle so-and-so to go instead.
I'm a little jealous of your family. This is like a crazy cool bond you guys have. This is awesome.
Oh yeah, I love it. It's like my favorite thing.
So are you the one using the wheelchair, or is your dad or your sister?
My
or do
dad,
you take turns?
It's actually funny because my dad, I can walk if it's a short distance. If we're going somewhere that requires more than walking from the parking lot like to one building, I will rent a chair there. So that means if we're going to places, a lot of times we'll need 2 wheelchairs and 2 pushers.
Okay.
And so it's like we need all hands on deck when we go out. My dad recently found a wheelchair that reclines so that he can lean back more. It's kind of like a stroller, but for an adult.
Yeah, my dad has one.
Because he can go anywhere in that, and we can take him. And we found it up in New Jersey, and it was like we were looking at shipping, and it was going to be like $500 just to ship this thing down to Florida. And one of my friends drove it down here for us. So
Good
it's just like I just have like I feel like I have amazing people helping me, especially like if I've gotten to the point where I'm not afraid to like ask or say I have this problem, can you do this for me? Because a lot of times people will do it, especially if you're not specific with them. Like if I'm like, oh, I have chronic fatigue syndrome, they might be like, what? But if I'm like, oh, I have health problems, I need this, a lot of times they'll be like, okay, that's fine.
That's another good hack there. I like that. So
yeah, like giving people as little information as possible, but then still giving them enough information, letting them know that you need help.
That's a very good point. I will highlight that for the show notes. You are an amazing wealth of knowledge here. I'm pretty sure we're getting to an hour here, and I wanted to make sure that like, is there anything you want us to highlight? Any charities? Any health organizations?
I mean, I have started blogging about like my ridiculous family and my life and everything I've been going through, and I really love writing. So I started Invisible Me Diary, and I hope that like I love it so much that I hope that someday I can get published or even just have people read it. Like I get excited if one person reads it.
So
it helps.
You know, everyone, if you've been listening to this, you know how incredibly clever, hilarious, and very knowledgeable Sara is. So I am in the show notes right at the top. You will see a link. I'm going to link to her blog. So go and subscribe, head over and take a read through. It's really fun to look through.
Thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you so much for being so patient with me and being such a fantastic interview. So everyone, until next time, be kind, be gentle, be a badass. If you want to be really nice to us, head over to Apple Podcasts, give us some stars, say something embarrassingly nice about us, and be sure to share us with friends and family.